My name is Jake Patton. I'm the strength and conditioning coordinator here at our Wellness and Fitness Center. Today we're going to go over CPAT, getting prepared for it, conquering it, and then getting ready for recruit school. It's going to suck at times to train and be prepared for it. The job is going to be a challenging one that's both cardiovascularly challenging as well as strength challenging. So understanding what your body can do, what it needs to do, how to program for it, that we're going to help you with that. It's not just about running. It's not just about, conditioning. There is a huge strength component to it. So like I said, understanding your body, understanding techniques of certain movements that are strength-based, such as deadlifting, squatting, push-ups, pull-ups. We're gonna go over those things as well as how to do them when you don't have dumbbells, kettlebells, barbells, and you have just your body weight or maybe just a backpack with weight in it. We wanna make sure we are giving you the best and most knowledgeable programming and teaching cues so that you are well prepared for recruit school, but let alone conquering CPAT so that you can get to recruit school. Again, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable is going to be the name of the game. So with the goblet squat, right, we're going to go over a few techniques and cues with the actual squat itself before we load up with the weight. Her feet should be about hip to shoulder width, right, whatever she's comfortable with in that realm. Her chest is going to be nice and tall, good tall posture, abs are braced, right. Her hands can be in a position as if she's going to mimic the goblet squat, which we will get to in a second with that weight. And when she's ready, she's going to push her hips back slightly, dropping it down, good to the point where her thighs are about parallel to the floor, or as low as she feels comfortable with going, right, as long as she's maintaining her form throughout, right. So as she squats, right, regardless, she's going to lead with her chest the entire time, not with her hips. She's not going to let her knees cave in, right? She wants her knees pushed out almost as if she had a band wrapped around them, right? But the emphasis is still on the quad, a little bit of the glute as she drives back up, right? And doing it with a backpack, a weighted backpack, I should say. She's going to hold it as if it's like a zercher, meaning she's going to challenge her forearms and her grip a little bit as well as her shoulder stability, but that weight's out in front of her. She's going to do the same thing with the squat technique. Good feet placement, yep, hips back and down, squatting as low as she feels comfortable with going, preferably thighs parallel, and leading with her chest and that weight up first. Good, and then with the dumbbell.
Thank you.
All right, again, the dumbbell or the weight should be about 4 to 5 inches away from that body. Again, just to challenge your shoulders a little bit. Still good tall posture, working a good squat technique throughout. Good, not letting the knees cave in, not coming up on the balls of her feet or her toes, right? And again, not leading with her hips first. Everything is led, shoulders and chest first. Good. All right, next up, we're gonna talk about the overhead press. She's gonna have her feet in the same position as a squat in that power line position, so her ankles, knees, hips, shoulders are all stacked. She's gonna work her hands initially with no weights in it up and above her head. So she stretches it out, works a little mobility in the shoulders, making sure she's getting all aspects of her delt as well as scaps involved. Abs are braced, again, nice and tall. Good, all right, now to show it with a backpack or other weight, that's not necessarily a kettlebell or dumbbell, same emphasis, pushing feet through the ground, abs braced, she's punching that backpack up and overhead. Good, and then she can even flip it around to work a little bit more mobility, right? Pushing the head through her arms. Now her ears are in line with her biceps. And again, this is really focusing on her rear delts in that scap area. Good, right? And then the last part of the progression is grab some type of dumbbell. You can even do it with a barbell if you can. So rules are still the same, right? Joint stack, she's gonna punch it up and overhead. Abs are braced, nice and tight. Good. It can go neutral, it can go supinated, pronated, whatever you're comfortable with doing within that realm of the overhead press, making sure she's nice and tall at the top of the press. If she starts to fatigue, I would cue using a little leg, using a little hip, right, to avoid that hyperextension in her low back. All right, so she can use a little bit more leg, a little more hip drive to help punch that weight up and over her head, still concentrate on that joint stack and that straight line progression with the dumbbell or weight. For the step up, right, we're gonna go over something that's comparable to the stair mill, the Stepmaster, and taking steps for a consecutive period of time, and where endurance is definitely a factor. All right, so she's gonna step onto the box, leading with whichever foot she feels comfortable with, making sure that whole foot is on that box. Again, on the stair mill, you might not necessarily be able to get your heel on, but when we're training for something, we wanna make sure we're safe and we're working the best movement possible within that exercise, right? So she's working all the way up, good controlled step back, right, and she can alternate her feet if needed. We will then load her up, Again, it's gonna be similar to having that weight vest on you, especially when you add the extra weights on top of the shoulders. It's getting you prepared mentally and physically with that load as you work, stepping up on that box and stepping off that box. She's maintaining good tall posture throughout. Hands are held onto the backpack straps, which is fine. Again, we want to focus on good cadence, good step, good technique. The other stuff will come as she gets a little bit more progressive, a little more advanced in the movements. But for now, focus on where your feet are going on and off the box. All right, next we're gonna go over the pull-up, right? With this, you can either choose pronated grip for the actual pull-up. You can also do supinated, where it's a chin up, whatever your preference is. Make sure though, the technique and the cues are still the same for both, right? So for her, she's gonna do the pull-up. She's gonna go from that dead hang position. Abs are braced, she's gonna engage her lat muscles, pulling her chest to the bar, chin above it. Good little pause, controlling herself back down. Yep, nice control, good. You're right, if you wanted to work some assistance, maybe you're focusing on more repetitions, you're gonna work a little isometric, chin above the bar hold, eccentric. The band is gonna be a good assistance for that, right? So she'll step on the band with both feet, right? Still same posture from that dead hang, engaging her lats, chin above, add a little pause, right? So if she holds it there for a few seconds, that's the isometric. If she works it down 3 to 5 seconds, something like that, that's the eccentric, the strongest part of the movement. She can also just work overall movements to help with her endurance and some of her strength gain in the movement itself, right? Nice and tall, abs braced, working a good pull-up, lats and biceps. So from the side plank position, we're gonna work a cherry picker, right? So her hips will come up off the floor. She's gonna be nice and tall in this posture, neutral spine, right? From her head all the way down to her feet, stabilizing off her down arm and shoulder. She's gonna work her hand up in a rotation to the sky as if to pick the fruit off the tree, then put it down underneath her ribs with a slight rotation. It's gonna challenge the oblique, again, challenge the stability of that shoulder. Right, if she wants to modify to still get good work out of the rotation, transverse plane ab, she's gonna drop her knees to the ground, still keep her hips up, engage glutes and all the other muscles like we talked about in the original position while working that rotation. Also making sure to work both sides, both arms. All right, so the next exercise is gonna be the deadlift. This is probably my favorite and most important exercise to make sure we're cueing and teaching. It's gonna help promote overall strength for any movement. But we're gonna work from a hinge position, which is different than the squat. So for her, the weight or the backpack for this case is gonna be in between her feet. Her chest is gonna be over top her hands, right? She's gonna be in a good hinge position, meaning that her hips are higher than her knees, activating her hamstrings and her glutes. All right, her back is flat, head is neutral with her spine, abs are still flexed, and as she pushes her feet through the ground, she's standing up that weight nice and tall. Hips come through at the top and then nice and controlled on the way back down. Same way that she lifts is the same way that she's then gonna put that weight back down again. Being that it's a backpack, it's a little bit higher up than some of the kettlebells, dumbbells that we're working with, but it is a great starting point to make sure you're hitting the proper cues in this movement because it is vital for this movement itself. Because what we wanna avoid is her lifting with her hips first, right? We wanna work her low back, but not injure her low back, right? We don't want to abuse it. So making sure her chest, her shoulders are the first thing that lead up with that weight. Good. All right, and then we'll switch it out, showcase the dumbbell. Again, same concept, dumbbell in between her feet. Back is flat, head is neutral, good hinge position. When she's ready, driving her feet through the ground, shoulders and chest lead the way. Good, and at the top even, chest is out, shoulder blades are back, making sure everything's joint stacked on top of each other. Good controlled movement on the way down, working that eccentric. Next up is the inverted row. You're gonna see a similarity in this form as you did with the deadlift, right? Because we're in a hinge position. She's gonna be over top the weight with her chest and hands, but she still wants to keep a good neutral spine and head, as well as still activating her hamstrings, her glutes, and even her quads, right? But for here, she's in a hinge position. She's gonna work on bringing that weight up to her chest line, squeezing her shoulder blades together, right? Controlling it all the way back down again, not losing her form, right? We don't wanna see any shoulders drop. So think nice and tall in that posture, but still bent over as you're nice and tall. Good, big squeeze up, little pause, control it back down again. Nice, all right? And we'll showcase it with the dumbbells as well. All right, same movement, same pattern, right? But now you're working a little more unilateral with different weights in your hands. As you pull up, it could be a kettlebell, it could be dumbbells. One could be heavier than the other, but the form still remains the same, right? She's bent over top that weight as she's focusing on isolating those back muscles as well as a little bit of those arm muscles, bracing the core the entire time. right, so we're gonna go over the push-up. Her hand's gonna be about shoulder width apart, fingertips pointing forward. All right, when she's ready, she's gonna go in up position. She wants to make sure that she is nice and tight in her core, her glutes, her quads, as she lowers herself down to that block, which is just kind of a depth finder, a gauge, and then pressing her hands through the ground, pushing herself back up again, maintaining a good straight line, good neutral spine throughout. All right, the other big thing to focus on is not letting the elbows bow out and letting your delts take over, right? You want to keep those elbows in, right, so you can work your pecs and your triceps properly. Go ahead and drop your knees, yep, as a variation to make sure you're working good form, good technique, as well as work on some volume, some more endurance-based stuff, push up. Drop your knees, stay tight in your form, but still work good depth, good technique throughout. And then another version, right, we'll do an elevated push-up off the box. All right, here again, we're working just a different way of doing a push-up so she can focus on her form, her technique, making sure she's accumulated a good amount of volume, endurance-based stuff to help really build overall strength components and conditioning components of those shoulders, pec, tris, bis, that whole upper torso, as well as her lower torso and abs. Strength and conditioning is going to be the name of the game, right? Strength, a little bit more so than the conditioning. Running is simpler to do, not necessarily easier, but the strength components are going to be paramount for you. Understanding your cues, understanding the techniques of each movement, using all those movements, especially the ones that we're showing you on how to do, to help better yourself and prepare yourself for CPAT, accomplishing CPAT, and then getting prepared for recruit school, and also conquering recruit school, right? It's gonna be a long and very stimulating and challenging process. You're gonna have to throw ladders, pull heavy objects, throw heavy objects. There's gonna be a lot of things that you will have not experienced before in your life, even if you're in the gym a lot, that you're gonna have to be prepared for. So strength and progressive overload, right? That phrase means if you start light with one set, that second set you get a little heavier, the third set a little heavier after that. Challenge your body, throw an external load on yourself like a backpack when you don't have dumbbells or kettlebells. Find new ways to challenge yourself to grow. Strength, strength, strength.